Right. Thank you. My name is... Clap before I start. Hopefully clap when I'm done, too. We'll see. My name is John Young. I am with the Education Awareness Program, which is part of the energy incentives programs from We Energies. That, along with a small business program and a multifamily program, make up the We Energies programs under the energy incentives from We Energies program name. One point of sort of clarification, a lot of customers that I work with when I'm out in the field, there is a sort of a disconnect in the relationship between We Energies and Focus on Energy. So just a brief introduction to that. And I'm guessing most people here are probably familiar with the Focus on Energy program, but it is a statewide energy efficiency program that partners with most of the utilities within the state of Wisconsin to bring energy efficiency, financial incentives, as well as expertise to those participating utility customers. We Energies is one of those participating utilities. In addition to that, We Energies has a voluntary program, part of which is the Education Awareness Program, the multifamily program, and the small business program. They are complementary to each other. They're not in competition to each other. We work very closely with the Focus on Energy staff to make sure that customers are receiving the best services possible, both in terms of financial incentives and expertise. As many of you are probably or may be becoming aware of very soon, there are going to be some changes coming to the Focus on Energy program, as well as the We Energies program here within the next couple of months. And I would refer you to the We Energies or the Focus on Energy website to follow along with those changes. One change that has already went into place for the We Energies program is the We Energies electric program for small business and multifamily has ended as of December 30th of this year. So I'm really going to talk about how We Energies incentive program works with customers. So we're going to talk a little bit about what drives our customers, why is energy efficiency important, what can energy incentives from We Energies offer to the customer, and then I think I got one slide on who qualifies for that, and that can be sometimes confusing, so best thing is to call us on that. So there's three business drivers. Doesn't matter what business it is. There's generally three business drivers for those. Whoops, sorry about that. For any business, first one is generating sales, maintaining cash flow, and then cost of goods sold and controlling those costs. When I work with a lot of the customers I work with, see energy as a necessary evil for their business. They don't see that there's anything that they can really do about it. It's not necessarily always on the top of the list because they have things such as labor and raw material goods that generally are a bigger portion of their costs. But the energy is still a very important part of that. And one of the things that I try to educate customers on is that there are things that they can do to control those costs. Another benefit or another kind of barrier that we run up against is that oftentimes customers will see energy efficiency as that may impact their product. Talk louder. May impact, excuse me, product quality or customer comfort. And again, this is something that we need to educate them on to get over that aspect of it. The bottom line is that energy efficiency and those dollars saved from energy efficiency can go directly to the bottom line. And this is very important for those customers, to help those customers understand that. And so when we start talking about the financial aspect of it, sometimes we can start to reach them a little bit. And so this is one of the things that I generally ask the customers when I go out, depending upon their profit margin, how much profit does it take to actually, or how much, if we had a certain amount of energy savings, how much sales would it take to reach that amount of energy savings? So we have an example here of a typical mid-size grocery store that its energy or the profit margin is about 1.5%. And so for every $1,000 in sales, there's only going to be $15 in profit for that. So that same company with a $150,000 energy budget, a cost reduction of 10% or about $15,000, they would actually have to sell $1 million to make up that $15,000 for energy savings. So when we're looking at project costs, one of those questions that comes up is how much are you going to have to invest in either people or plant and materials to do that additional $1 million versus what's it going to cost to do an energy efficiency project to equate that same amount of money. So why energy efficiency? In this group, sort of preaching to the choir here, I'm sure we all understand why energy efficiency is important. For the business, the biggest one is reducing energy costs, of course. And there hasn't been a customer that I've worked with that this has not been one of their top priorities when I'm talking to them about energy efficiency. And one of the reasons they bring us out to work with them. In addition to saving costs, it does increase the building value. Everything else being equal, which building would you rather buy? One that's been updated with energy efficiency products or one that is not? You're going to pick the one that has less operating costs because of the energy efficiency that has been installed into that. Improving comfort and productivity. I think there's been studies out there that have shown that very good lighting helps with productivity. And I've worked with a couple of customers directly that have anecdotally, they haven't done any studies, but they have felt that when they've taken out their old high-pressure sodium lights, which are the yellowish amber looking lights, and put in a new 6-lamp high bay T8 system, the light levels have improved dramatically, and it has impacted the way their employees respond to the work and how much actually production they're getting out of them. Being part of the solution. To be honest with you, I've only run into a handful of customers that are actually, this is standalone by itself. This is one of the reasons that they're looking at energy efficiency. Generally, there's other reasons, and they generally relate back to those three business drivers that we talked about before. Being part of the solution, a lot of companies have adopted this as a way of, they've used the energy efficiency and being sustainable as a way of generating sales. You take Walmart, for example, and whether you love them or hate them, one thing they've done is very well is they've driven the sustainability market. They have their sustainability scorecard, which probably many of you have heard about, that they are requiring their suppliers to fill out, and those suppliers that aren't meeting their baseline energy efficiency and sustainability benchmarks may not become suppliers anymore. So, and I've seen this trickle down to companies here in Wisconsin that I've worked with, and that this is a key to them. Also, energy efficiency can be part of a marketing campaign. Kohl's does a great job of that. I hear commercials every other day about Kohl's stores being Energy Star certified. So there is, driving that back to sales, there is being part of the solution. Energy efficiency is an option there. More cost effective than building new power plants. This really relates to why We Energies is interested in an energy efficiency program. I don't remember the exact numbers, but energy efficiency programs are much more cost effective as opposed to building new power plants. Right now, there's probably plenty of electricity out there on the grid, and there's probably a few people here from We Energies that could speak to that, but that's only because of the economic downturn. As we come out of that and as businesses continue to grow, that capacity is no longer going to be there, and there's going to be a need at some point to add more generation to the line. Energy efficiency programs can delay that building of new power plants or new generation for a certain period of time. The other reason that, and I get this question a lot, why We Energies is in the business of selling energy. Why do you want to help customers reduce that amount? And one of the other reasons that I tell them is that it is, was that a comment on Looney Tunes? It's all right. The other reason is really a customer service reason, and that We Energies wants to help their customers become more energy efficient, be more competitive within the market, and they can do that through energy efficiency programs by attracting new customers to the Wisconsin area, the southeastern Wisconsin area, and retaining other customers through energy efficiency and helping them to reduce their cost. So what do we offer as the We Energies incentive programs? Free energy assessments, free direct installation, financial incentives, and I'll talk about those three a little bit, and free ongoing unbiased consultation. That is really where we want to make sure that we're presenting ourselves. When we go out, we don't talk about, they can use any contractors they want, they can use any consultants they want, and we want to make sure that they understand that we're not steering them in any direction, and that it's ongoing. We go out and do an energy assessment. I always let my customers know that if it's 2 weeks from now, or 2 months from now, or 2 years from now, they should give us a call if they're doing any sort of project or any sort of change to their business that may affect their energy consumption. So, free energy assessment. This is a walkthrough by an energy advisor. Sometimes we do partner with Focus on Energy on some of these, especially some of the larger customers, to do a walkthrough. What that basically means is we'll walk through the entire building looking for opportunities for that customer in ways that they can save energy. What you'll get as a result of that is a written report which will identify the measures that we are recommending. We'll also identify the incentives that are available, either through the We Energies program or the Focus on Energy program. And then we'll review those programs and how they work with those customers as well. Direct installation. This program right now is currently just on the We Energies program just for the multifamily program from 2 units up to 8. So we will send a crew out to install high efficiency aerators, shower heads, as well as insulate their domestic hot water pipes. Financial incentives. As I mentioned before, We Energies used to offer for qualified small business and multifamily building owners, we used to offer both electric incentives as well as natural gas. Currently, there are only natural gas incentives available through the We Energies program. So when we go out, we don't just ignore the electric opportunities that are out there, but we are making sure that they understand the Focus on Energy program and what incentives are available through the Focus on Energy program to do that. There's 2 types of incentive, prescriptive and custom. Prescriptive are the one-for-one replacements. I switch out a 100-watt incandescent lamp and I put in well, that'd be for the Focus program. On the natural gas program, we'd be looking at, you take a 80% efficient furnace, you put in a 90% plus efficient furnace, and you get X number of dollars for doing that. Custom incentives need pre-approval. These are for projects that are a little more advanced and a little more complicated, and incentives there are based upon the first year annual energy savings, and I believe it's at 80 cents a therm that the incentive is paid out. The education awareness services. This is the group that I'm part of. We do conduct energy assessments. We will conduct energy assessments for those customers that do not qualify for the small business or the multifamily program under the We Energies incentive program. So we do a lot of coordination with the Focus on Energy program. We will help set up and work with your energy teams. Business Energy Advisor is an online tool through the We Energies website that will provide customers with energy saving opportunities. 1 to 5 energy evaluations. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Energy Challenger. It's actually going to be called Energy Analyzer. This will be an online tool, hopefully coming online through the We Energies website in the next couple of months, which is a version of the 1 to 5 energy program that is designed for small businesses. Practical energy management training. We Energies does sponsor a couple of times a year practical energy management, actually here in this room. That is a program that is put on by Focus on Energy, but We Energies does sponsor that and support that. We'll do gas territory outreach. So We Energies, while concentrated in southeastern Wisconsin and the Fox River Valley area, We Energies does supply gas to other areas within Wisconsin, and so we will go out to those areas to make sure that they're familiar with what incentives are available to them. And then Focus on Energy outreach. I've been involved with a couple of these over the last year. We've made efforts to reach the hospitality industry as well as the healthcare industry. Again, this is a coordinated effort between We Energies incentive programs and Focus on Energy. So energy teams, Ross is going to spend more time talking about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time about this. Just that you know that the We Energies program and the Education Awareness Team are available to help set up your energy team as well as be a part of that energy team on an ongoing basis. 1 to 5 energy. This is a global benchmarking tool generally reserved for large energy users. As we had seen before, you need to have at least $250,000 in energy spend to qualify for this program. And what the 1 to 5 energy program does is it doesn't look so much at your actual energy use or technology, but this is looking at policy, practices, and procedures. So we'll go through a survey with members of the energy team or the management team, and it's a series of yes and no questions through 10 different categories. And those 10 different categories start off with leadership. They talk about things in procurement, people, and going all the way up into how you recognize people for energy recommendations. And at the end, you get a 1 to 5 rating. That's not really the most important part of it, the rating. The most important part is that you'll get a roadmap after that on how to implement an energy management system, looking more at, again, policies and procedures. And there's generally about 25 to 30% energy savings that come out of doing non-technical changes to the business. So there's some real value into doing this program. Who qualifies? This can be a complicated question. It's generally, for the most part, small business gas customers, depending upon the gas rate. Unless you're a really large user of natural gas, you most likely will qualify for the We Energies program. And then it also depends upon the business segment that that customer is in. So the easiest way is, if you're interested, if you're wondering if you do qualify for the We Energies incentives, give us a call and we will help qualify that business. The other is the 2 to 8 unit multifamily building owners. Again, gas incentives along with the direct install program. And that's what I had. So Ross?
My name is Ross Bennett. I am a commercial energy advisor with the Focus on Energy program. I work out of our Madison office and primarily handle businesses in the Madison area, but we do have folks all over the state, Milwaukee, La Crosse, Eau Claire, all over the place. And what I'm going to be talking about today is, what is a strategic energy management approach? How is it, different than just having, a plan or intention to start reducing energy and becoming more sustainable? And then give some specific examples about 3 very different businesses, or 4 different businesses that have implemented energy teams into their approach, and then also been able to implement that energy management approach into specific projects and how that benefited them. And then also get into some of the incentives that we're offering right now that are on a special promotion. So these graphs right here, they compare a typical energy consumption of a business that has no energy management strategy and then one that has one. Before I start working with a lot of businesses, this is pretty typical to see. They're really not paying attention to how much energy they're using. They're not tracking it and looking at it on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis. So things start to drift up, and then right about here is when you get a call from finance or accounting and saying, hey, what's going on? Our energy bills are up 5%. And then someone does a big project, they reduce their energy down to where it should be, and then again they start to forget about it and things just drift back up. Whereas, a business that has a specific plan or approach to systematically reduce their energy consumption, that's sort of what that looks like. Anybody in here that handles any budgeting or planning for their business and their utility expenses, which graph would you rather have to develop your plan and your budget off of? It's an easy one right here to say. As far as an actual plan or approach to energy management, Energy Star has developed this approach, and it's tested, it works. When we go into a lot of businesses and they want help with setting up an energy team or an energy management plan, we base it off of this. And it really gives a good tool to continuously develop and continuously implement that plan so we don't have that snapback like that last graph where it's going up. The first one up here is make a commitment. Sometimes it's the easiest thing to say, but it's really the hardest thing to do. And I can say from experience of working with businesses is once they have that foundation and they have that commitment and they have people on board, the rest of this is all just details and it all just sort of, the puzzle pieces just seem to fall into place. Most important thing with making that commitment is start an energy team. Get people together from all aspects of the business. People in HR, people in finance, people in facilities, with the engineering team. Get them all on a team and appoint an energy director or energy champion or green knight or whatever you want to call them. And, you can vote or appoint somebody, but most of the time when you get that group together, it really becomes apparent that there's one or two people there that really care about energy. They have a passion for reducing their energy consumption and also being more sustainable as far as what type of cleaning products they use, reducing water consumption and so forth. And then going down to the next one is assess performance and set goals. Assessing performance, that can be as simple as benchmarking your facility. Energy Star has a portfolio manager that you can use that will score the building on 1 to 100 scale, and so that way you kind of know how you compare. It's kind of like if someone says, well, is your building a good performing building or not? It's just like saying I caught a fish and it was this big. Well, how big was it? Oh, it was this big. So if you have a score of 50, you know that you're about average. If you have a score of 75 or better, you know that you're in the top 25th percentile. And that can also help you set goals. Setting goals can be sort of a slippery slope when trying to do that. You don't want to be too aggressive in setting goals where they're too hard to achieve, and if you don't achieve them, you can set yourself up for disappointment. But if they're also too low, it can look like you're not motivated and really want to have a big impact on consumption. So by benchmarking yourself and figuring out where you're at, let's say you benchmark your facility using Energy Star, your score is 65 or 66. You can set a reasonable goal over the next 3 years to get to, say, a 75. And you can figure out, what percent of energy reduction you need per year to achieve that goal. So that way you have tangible data and actual, numbers that you can go off of to set realistic goals. Then after that comes creating the action plan, and that can be as simple as doing a walkthrough at the facilities and coming up with a list of measures to implement. So once you've done that, implement that action plan. This is right here where you'll actually see the fruits of your labor and getting those energy savings or reducing water consumption or whatever that may be. It's just, take action, whether it's big or small, just do something. That's all it's about. And then right down here, you evaluate the progress. Most often, the best way to do that is just re-benchmark the facility. Look to see if energy consumption has gone down how you expected it to be. What kind of trends are there? What do you see? If something comes up with a big red flag, you come back here and say, well, what's going on? Are goals off? Did we miss benchmark? Did we put in wrong information? And so forth. Then it's also important to recognize achievements. Just, reward the people for good things that they've done. If you hit that goal of a 75, put out a press release about it. Get your building certified so you can get a nice Energy Star plaque in your building to say that this is an energy efficient building. And then as far as trainings that we offer, there's the commercial practical energy management and industrial practical energy management. That's through Focus that We Energy sponsors as well, and also the building operator certification. And you can see this six-step approach to energy management is very similar to that Energy Star one. But the nice thing about these trainings is you'll get really one-on-one, hands-on approach, and you get a really nice binder full of material that has a lot of information on each one of these steps and examples and ways to actually implement that step. First company I'm going to highlight is American Family Insurance. They are a mutual insurance company out of Madison, Wisconsin, and they have about 10 facilities in Wisconsin, and then they also have several throughout the nation and several other states. I started working with them in 2008, didn't have an energy team, didn't have an energy management policy, and just they had a lot of square footage to cover, they had a lot of ongoing projects, so it just kind of made sense that we start this energy team. And there was about a group of 5 facility guys and then myself on this energy team, and it really just seemed like it was very easy and it worked out for this energy team. Everybody had their specific roles, everybody cared about you know, doing these projects and actually having an impact on the energy consumption. The energy champion or energy team lead that he's called, he's not a management level guy. He's a facility system specialist. He's just a building operator. But he really distinguished himself as really wanting to take the lead in this and take the role in this. So he kind of helps direct people and direct where the energy team goes and what projects we do. And then also on that we have the facility systems manager, and he's really the guy that gives approvals and gives that final yes or no. And then he's also our one of our big sort of, he lobbies our energy management team up to the upper management that he has that direct involvement with. And then we also have one guy that just takes in the bills and uploads them to Energy Star. So we are able to track that data monthly. Then we have another 2 other building operators on that it's great to have them on board, because whenever we come up with project ideas, they're sort of our technical go-to guys about, whether or not something like that is practical to implement and how we go about doing that. And one of the key things to making this energy team successful was getting upper management support so they could have that budget to implement those projects and have approval to spend time and resources on some of these projects. And American Family's mission statement was really about social responsibility, environmental stewardship, and financial responsibility. It's that triple bottom line: people, planet, profit. Well, how do we sort of align the energy team goals with that, so that way we can convince the upper management that this energy team was going to help American Family towards their mission of people, planet, and profit. Social responsibility, how does an energy team work with that? American Family has done a number of lighting projects that actually improved the quality of the light and made people just, one of the examples was a parking garage lighting project that was done. They had old high-pressure sodium fixtures in there. The light was kind of yellowish, not very good light quality. People didn't always feel safe in that. So took those out, put in fluorescent lights, much better light quality, and they got a lot of compliments and feedback of how much the people or the employees liked the new lighting that was in there. And so not only did we save energy, but we also improved the comfort of people. Environmental stewardship, that's pretty easy. The less energy used, the less carbon emissions and greenhouse gas emissions that go up in the air. And then financial responsibility. Every penny that our energy team saves at American Family means a penny off the bottom line. And American Family has a responsibility to really be profitable to their shareholders. And the energy team is a great avenue for making that happen. So one of the first things that we did in our action plan to really implement was do some site assessments. Myself, some utilities guys, and then also staff members that are building operators, we did a walkthrough at all of the facilities. And that was really just to give us a picture of, all right, what kind of opportunities are out there? What can we do to implement projects? And what was great was the staff was really on board the whole time. We would come up with questions. We didn't really know how the building was operated, and they're there for work, and they really know the facility and all the equipment like the back of their hand. So they were able to help out a lot with that, with even coming up with suggestions on their own. And the key outcome of that was it gave us a list of probably like 50 or 60 projects, and we still go off of that list today. And we were able to prioritize that with starting at the top of the list with the easiest, to implement, and then also had the lowest payback, so we could start to see that cash flow immediately. Next thing that was a big undertaking was a benchmarking, and we decided to use the portfolio manager because we could use, we could put all of the buildings in there under one portfolio and sort of track that all in just a single snapshot. And it was a bit of an undertaking. They had just about 10 binders of paper bills going back 3 years that we had to input into the portfolio manager, but it was definitely worth it. It gave us a really good idea of where they were at and what buildings could use the most important or had the most potential for upgrades. And what we do with that data is American Family staff updates that to Portfolio Manager, and then we can have an energy advisor pull that data from Portfolio Manager, put that in a spreadsheet, and sort of be able to analyze it a little bit more exact and look for things. And really what we look for is trends. Is energy consumption going up or down? If it's going up, what do we do about it? If it's going down, things are happening the way that they're supposed to do. But most important, it's tangible data. We know that we can reduce the electric consumption by X percent, and that related to a certain number of dollars over the course of the year. And we can relay that to management, and you start talking their language and talking dollars and cents, it's easier to get their approval and their support going forward. This is just an example of one of the projects where we were able to see trends. So this line up here at the top is 2007, and then the red line here and the green line, it's 2008 and 2009. So 2008, 2009, they were pretty closely together for a while. Right around here was when we did the site assessments, and we're able to, one of the key measures out of that was a scheduling where we could set back the building, reduced hours of operation about 6-7 hours per day. So we expected to see some drop in consumption. So, we saw that drop, and it started to creep back up a little bit. Then 2010, everything was looking good. We were way below where we were in the past. Then all of a sudden here in the summer, we started going above where we were in 2008 and 2009. And so that kind of threw up a red flag. We said, hey, what's going on? Nothing with the building really was changed that would explain that. So one of the building operators went into the building automation system and found that somebody had done an override on the lighting system, so it was literally on 24/7, and the HVAC units were on 24/7. And we would have never known that if we weren't tracking this monthly and seeing what happened. So the outcome of that was it dropped back in the line where we expected it to be. And it was just as simple as taking 5 minutes to look at the data. This is overall consumption, and that's a pretty good trend. That's lower energy bills, everything. Through their efforts, American Family has been able to get Energy Star certified on 4 of their buildings, and it's something that they're very proud in. When you walk in one of the buildings that's certified, you see a plaque there that says it's an Energy Star building. And I kind of like to compare that to, when you're at a Lowe's or Home Depot buying a CFL, you look for that Energy Star label. Well, the same thing applies to a building. Here's just an example. I don't know how well you can see this, but basically this is the before picture. There was each one of these had 2 lamps in it. They were 3500K lamps. And one of the big projects to do was to replace those with 28-watt T8s that were 5,000K, and then also reduce 1 lamp. So they reduced their lamps by 50%, reduced the ballast as well, so they were lowering equipment costs and everything. And there was really no change in light level, and they even got comments where people thought that they put in more lights, and it was actually easier for them to see papers on their desk and work in a normal working environment. So, increased productivity, better occupant health there, and also a significant reduction in energy consumption, and then also even in products too, because they have to buy less lamps next time they re-lamp. Another example was we're in that past when it was a big lighting retrofit project, where you don't always need to do big projects like that. You can just review scheduling, how the building operates. And one of the things with this was this building was coming on at 4 a.m. and shutting off at 10 p.m. So that was lights, ventilation, everything. You know, we said, well, are people here at 4 and do they stay till 10? Oh, no, people usually come around 7 to 8 and they're out of there by 5 or 6. So we tightened up the schedules and it had a big impact on that. Just simple things like that too. North Central Group is a owner and manager of several hotels. They're based in Middleton, Wisconsin. They operate several hotels in Wisconsin and then also around the nation. And Dave Coe is he's their guy with their energy team. He's a great guy to meet. He's always super enthusiastic about energy efficiency and sustainability. So he was a great guy to lead the team and was able to get a lot of support from their executive management. And you know, if you want to see what type of impact just having an energy team can do, you know, that's real dollar savings where they were able to lower their costs just through having an energy management plan and doing projects. So one of the big things was, you know, what's the point of starting a green team? Why should we have a green team? And really, their big thing was that it just makes sense to do business-wise. They realized that, you know, if they could lower their overhead costs, that meant more profit for them and less hotel rooms that they really had to sell. And that was that's really important for a business that, or a business sector that really lives and dies with the economy. Stronger it is, more people can be in hotel rooms and so forth. And you know, if you want to see what type of goals it makes sense to have for an energy team, they can be as simple as possible or complicated. But you know, I like the idea of making it as simple as possible and not any simpler. Those are pretty simple goals, right? You know, it doesn't take a whole lot to implement an energy team and have an impact. As far as their energy team, what was really interesting to me about their energy team is basically everybody is involved in their energy team. They have the energy champion who is their facilities guy and purchasing guy, but they also have an executive member that sits in on the energy team, and they also have each hotel manager participates in the energy team. They even have guest input where they ask for guest input with a suggestion drop box, and there's even a little survey card that you can fill out that they put there in the hotel room when you stay. So, you know, they're looking at it from the facilities guys, management guys, as well as guests. You know, it's important for them to just get everybody involved. The way that they really started to get momentum was they did a lot of low-cost, no-cost projects to really, you know, show management that this could be profitable for them. They could start to see cash flow back from these projects, and then that enabled that to snowball into some very larger projects, doing guest room energy management control system, major lighting retrofits, and major laundry projects. So, you know, whether you start big or start small with projects, the key thing is to start with those projects so you can start, you know, it has that snowball effect with it. And then these are just some examples of ways that they promote some of their efforts. They even have a Twitter account where the hotel managers tweet projects that they have done recently. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to get that out as well. You know, some of the important ingredients to an energy team, you know, again, it's having that champion and then also having executive support. But, you know, also what was important to this energy team was really getting everybody involved in that so they could, you know, take ownership in it and get excited about the energy team. And they also utilized several resources that were available to them. Now we'll get into two more businesses where the American Family North Central Group, that was really about an energy team and you know, how to get an energy team going, what they did successfully, how you can sort of manage that. And then this is going to highlight these businesses and specific projects that they did and how they implemented that energy management approach into their projects. Affiliated Foods Midwest, they're really they're a very large facility or distribution center, sort of a one-stop shop, and they supply the independent grocers and retail market for food service. And this is a new facility that they built in Kenosha in 2010. It's a 700,000 square foot cold storage facility. And then Gordon Food Service, they are another, they're a mass merchandiser, so food service, products, equipment, education, food sales, and so forth. They also recently built a distribution center in South Milwaukee as well. Both these facilities, they are cold storage warehouses, so grocery stores are very energy intensive because of that high refrigeration. Well, that's a cold storage facility, 700,000 square feet of that, where it takes a lot of energy to keep your ice cream at -10 below Fahrenheit in very big rooms. When they were planning and looking for sites to build a new distribution center and warehouse, both of these companies were evaluating other areas in different states. They were looking at Minnesota and they were looking at Illinois. And one of the deciding factors was the focus on energy program and that partnership with, and support from the utilities that really enabled them to build here in Wisconsin. And also with the support of the focus incentives, they were able to cap out Focus on Energy gave them the max per project incentive that was available to them, which was a very significant amount of money. And they also had the technical assistance where we could work with them and suggest energy efficient measures and really encourage them to incorporate best practices into those buildings. And why is that important that they chose Wisconsin instead of other states? When I looked at this, at first I was kind of like, wow, that's $150 million that was an investment in Wisconsin. And, being an energy advisor, working with energy every day, sometimes you get caught up in, just energy and just looking at the small things. But, it's success stories like this that really sort of make you step back and look at the big picture. These businesses are going to be here in Wisconsin for a while. And they brought several, more than 700 new jobs into the state for that. And then also very, very significant investment in the community for that. The nature of a distribution center is sort of that if you build it, they will come. These distribution centers and suppliers, they primarily do supply and support independent grocers. The independent grocers are the little guys. So if you have a distribution center that's close to you and they're doing stuff to keep their costs down, that means they don't have to pass that cost on to the grocery retailer, which in turn passes it on to the customers, which are you and me, because we got to buy food and water and milk there. So, really it has a much more impact than just the energy consumption of those facilities. And then these are just the special promotions that we're offering right now through March 31st. We're offering new incentives as well as heightened incentive levels on some of those technologies. And, with those incentives, you can use them to sort of kickstart a few projects with your energy management plan and approach. And interestingly enough, American Family's first project was because of a special promotion that we ran in 2009, and they wouldn't have done projects otherwise. So, start big or start small, just anything that you can do to get started and leverage resources that are around you is better than nothing. There you are, sir.
Okay. Speak loud. Okay. Hello. Good to be here. I'm Paul von Baumgarten. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. And I'm here with ESI, a Milwaukee-based company. I want to talk about a few trends in the building industry, some significant trends. We all know about sustainability, green buildings, energy efficiency. What you have going on today is a huge movement to attack or work in the existing building market. We're not building many new buildings anymore, so now we're going to be focusing on the existing building market. We're really talking about sort of blending energy efficiency and green operations, and I'll explain what that is. The trend is more organizational and portfolio driven as opposed to just individual buildings. So you're seeing major organizations with a portfolio of buildings addressing them all at one time. And I'm going to give you some examples of that. Sustainability, energy efficiency, green design, these are all some of the drivers. This is a little look at the existing building market. Who's out there? Who are the providers? What are the companies or organizations that are going to be knocking on your door to help you? You've got technology providers. Things like LED lighting. The next generation of lighting is now starting to work into the commercial building market. There are significant saving streams that will come from that. Energy bundles. Things like performance contracting, energy efficiency, where all of these strategies are put into one and then implemented in a project. It's now moving to greener buildings, where the bundle or the solutions have more sustainability solutions with them as well. The ultimate is what we call sustainability bundles, and that's more organizational. And you'll be surprised when you see an organization like McDonald's, how they're driving sustainability into the entire organization, why it's so impactful. Now you'll notice too, underneath those boxes are saving streams. Those are saving streams per square foot per year. So individual technologies may be in the 30 cents per square foot per year. When you start bundling them together, it can get up to 60 cents per square foot. As you start adding more operational saving streams, it can get up to 90 cents per square foot per year. And then when you really transform an organization, it can move up to $1.20 per square foot per year. Here's an example of greener bundles. What are some of the strategies and what do they save on an annual basis? You've got mechanical upgrades, lighting upgrades. One of the fastest growing areas is what we call commissioning, and that is retro commissioning, continuous commissioning, ongoing commissioning, and I'm going to give you some very specific examples of that. And then you've got saving streams from water, waste, even from education and communication. It all adds up to 90 cents per square foot per year. Now, one of the most significant industry trends now is optimizing the performance of existing buildings. In the past, we didn't have much we could do, or it took very skilled people to sort of harvest the saving streams from existing buildings, and we had to retrofit them, put in new lighting systems, new mechanical systems, upgrade control systems, and those can get somewhat expensive because you're talking about major investments. We're now starting to see significant saving streams coming from optimization of what's already there. So we're harvesting saving streams. By the way, for years we had trouble sort of identifying the saving streams, quantifying the saving streams from operational savings. We knew they were there, but they didn't necessarily come off the utility budget. They came out of other budgets as well. Now, new technologies are starting to emerge, basically software-driven, analytics, diagnostics. Now, suddenly we can do much more. Remember, all of the buildings, most buildings, have some form of building automation. Many of them are there and are used strictly as a time clock. They may be too sophisticated for the owners in their ability to optimize the performance, or you may have the industry that provides them just isn't good at sort of helping you, utilize them. So we've all got these, these wonderful machines in our buildings that don't get used to their full potential. Well, that era is behind us. Now we're starting to optimize those, those buildings. Now, retro commissioning and continuous commissioning, are the sort of the new applications of it. One of the things I'm very proud of is that commissioning as an industry has been very fragmented forever. Little pockets of it here and there, and sometimes people who had commissioning skills were used, more for lawsuits against buildings. So in other words, the industry was not terribly, focused on helping existing building owners and operators. What changed all that was LEED. Are all of you familiar with LEED? Sure you are. I was kidnapped by the U.S. Green Building Council for a decade and ended up on the board. I was co-chairman of LEED, and then I authored the team that built LEED for existing buildings. So LEED has had a significant impact. When we made commissioning a prerequisite, that started the ball rolling. Until that time, 5% of buildings in this country were commissioned. I mean, buildings would go up, everything would go in, and they'd never be calibrated to work. And so you'd wonder why, well, why isn't this operating as I had designed? Well, that all changed when LEED became a prerequisite. Now what you're seeing is commissioning in existing buildings, and we call that retro commissioning, and then continuous commissioning. And now we're able to really optimize the performance of those existing buildings. Now you need certain core competencies. Even though you've got all these analytics and diagnostics that are now starting to appear, unless they're in the hands of people that really know how to use them. So one of the concerns I have now is you've got all this wonderful software coming out, and it's appearing in the marketplace, and very few building owners and operators have the skills to really utilize them. So we're going to have a period of time where we're going to need help to sort of utilize these tools. You need building systems knowledge. You need to understand how the building systems work. And in some buildings, you have a host of systems. And then building operating knowledge. You're going to need experience in how buildings operate. So these are some of the core competencies that are required. There's a company here in Milwaukee called ESI, Environmental Systems, that does this as good as anyone I've seen. And some of their case studies and success stories are major corporations and major organizations in this state who are utilizing their capabilities. So ESI as a company, I think we're blessed to have them, and they do one heck of a job. They have a host of technologies and services, mostly around optimizing existing performance of buildings. You can see that on the right. These are some of the services they provide: managed services, energy benchmarking, building efficiency analysis, fault detection and diagnostics. We call that continuous commissioning. And then getting into the actual sort of the application of these technologies. We have things like energy benchmarking, very sophisticated benchmarking. You have things like real-time energy metering, fault detection, energy analysis and reporting. Now, these are some of the success stories that we're seeing, okay? There's a school district, for example, their investment was $36,000. Their annual savings was $60,000. So you're now starting to see very short paybacks. One of the challenges we've always had with retrofit is they typically could get into the 5 to 10 year payback period. And everybody that wants to do something is, they're more comfortable and give me something under a 2 or 3 year payback. So we're now starting to see significant paybacks from this commissioning. Now what was done here? Checking equipment and control, recommission and control sequences, training operators, measurement, analysis, and verification, basically retro commissioning. And the saving streams were less than 1 year. Commercial real estate, another example. The investment, they spent 71 grand. They ended up saving annually 218,000. So we always knew commissioning had huge paybacks. Now we're starting to get very specific and and have specific examples. So you're talking about a rate of return, return on investment of 208%. Now what was done? Building efficiency analysis, continuous commissioning, M&V, system support. So in other words, you're looking at things that, basically it's the existing systems that are in place. Here's a significant one, a major retail chain here in Wisconsin. Their investment, significant, $6.5 million. They basically put their entire portfolio under this, this program. But their savings are almost $4 million a year. Now, to a retailer, that's a significant, saving stream. And what did they do? Retro commissioning, fault detection and diagnostics, basically analytics, demand reduction, control sequences, measurement, and verification. I find it fascinating that you're looking at all this savings, and you're basically, you're not gutting anything, you're not replacing everything, you're basically optimizing what you already have. Now, you're still going to need retrofit in some cases, and one of the areas I think you're going to see a lot of retrofit in the years to come will be in the lighting system, because the next generation is upon us, and it's LEDs. Now, some of them aren't quite ready for prime time, but LEDs are now starting to replace, commercial lighting. You're going to see a fluorescent-like tube in the very near future. It's going to look like a fluorescent tube. It's going to, act like it. It's just going to be filled with an LED or multiple LEDs, and it'll reduce your energy consumption 50%. And you'll be able to address it like you've never been able to do that before. So you're going to see, in the next few years, the LED era coming into being. Now, there are a lot of products starting to show up, some good, some bad, some coming from who knows where. So in other words, all of that has to be sort of worked out, but the age is coming. So you're going to see significant changes in lighting, and it may be just, swap out what you already have. Another facility, they spent $700,000, and the annual savings were $465,000. Again, I find these fascinating because, this was sort of nirvana, what we were all trying to get to for years is, how do we optimize what's already there? And now you're seeing with commissioning, in this case, they replaced the outdated BAS, new motors, VFDs, but again, basically commissioning. So those are some success stories. I'd like to share one more thing with you in my short time here, is that organizational sustainability. How is it actualized? How is it implemented? We actually have here in Wisconsin, the Ronald McDonald House here was used as a pilot by the McDonald's organization to look at what can we do in our Ronald McDonald House charities, in those facilities. They have 300 of them. And this is what they did. The first step was assessment and opportunity. They basically looked at their energy and environmental footprint. They looked at their organization, not only the energy policies, but the organizational policies. They looked at their organization. Okay? In other words, their supply chain. This is what the big company, we talked about Walmart before. Walmart sort of set the stage for what we call greening the supply chain, where they're demanding of all their suppliers that they report back to them and show what they're doing, what their footprint is, and what they're doing to impact it. Greening one's supply chain is probably one of the quickest things you can do to really, sort of move it into the organization and let your supply chain help you. Because they're going to want to support your effort. They're going to want to show you what they're doing. As a matter of fact, there's a company here in Wisconsin called Schreiber Foods. Probably don't know that much about them. They're up in Green Bay. Their biggest customers, two biggest customers, Walmart and McDonald's. And so are they into sustainability? You betcha. Because their two biggest customers have said, show me what you're doing. Show me what you've got. Report back to me. I want to look at your organization, and I want to look at your footprint. Are you efficient? Are you getting more efficient? Do you manage water? I mean, it just goes on and on. So that's the trend that's coming. Okay? So organizational evaluation. Third-party certifications. We have two that are wonderful. Energy Star. We all know Energy Star. We use it to benchmark. We use it to for labeling as well. And LEED. We all know LEED is now the sort of the standard for green buildings, both new and existing. The next step they did was to talk about it. They're going to educate and communicate internally and externally. Not only all of their employees and volunteers, but they're going to talk about it. They want to be a driver in the community, especially the healthcare community, on their commitment to sustainability. Again, this comes from the top at McDonald's. I mean, they're very, very serious about it. And most companies of like that take this very seriously. The next step for them is they're going to green their operations. They're going to green what they already have. They're going to green their supply chain. They're going to green their housekeeping, recycling, landscaping. Now, they're doing all of these things now, but they're now going to sort of standardize it. They're actually going to use LEED for existing buildings because this does this quite well. They're looking at their improvements. Now, they don't have a huge retrofit opportunity, but they've got a significant commissioning opportunity. This particular facility, their annual energy bill is about $90,000. they're going to save $20,000 to $30,000 by doing this. Now again, that doesn't seem like much. Well, it does to them. It's an awful lot to them. But you add it by 300, and it's significant. Okay? But again, what are they going to do? They're going to do some lighting retrofit upgrades. They're looking at some HVAC improvements, but they're really doing retro commissioning. In other words, they're not going to be replacing a whole lot. They're just going to be tuning it, getting it working properly. They've got some things mismatched. They're going to do some water improvements. They're looking at different ways. Now, how do they pay for this? The paybacks are pretty short, but they're looking at ways they can maybe put it into a performance contracting type agreement or a relationship where they can spread the cost out over a period of years. So again, they're looking at how they sort of fund it. They're looking at incentives from We Energies and others. So in other words, they're sort of figuring out how do we pay for these improvements and get them done as quickly as possible. And then they're going to manage it. This isn't an event; it's a lifestyle. Okay, and that's what we need to learn about this: is that to optimize the performance of our buildings, we need to do it day in and day out. So they're going to be measuring, monitoring. They're looking at LEED certification because if they do these things, they're going to be able to think about LEED certifying all 300 Ronald McDonald houses. That's something they would love to do. But again, they're using it as a tool, but they may be considering certification. Okay, and then they want to lead by example. An iconic brand like McDonald's and Ronald McDonald houses. I mean, so they were able to go into their buildings and turning them into very efficient, very sustainable buildings and organization. And so it's something that they're going to want to communicate very effectively. Now they're about to do this to all 300 houses, and then they're going to turn on the McDonald's restaurants. How can they do this throughout the entire organization? One of those case studies that I gave you is a major retailer, one that we're very proud of here in Wisconsin. I didn't use the name because they prefer that we not. But they have 202 LEED certified stores. Nobody in this country, nobody's even close to that. Okay? So what they've managed to do is become very green, very sustainable, very efficient, and do it with their existing buildings. With that, I think I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. This. There you go.
Great.
Okay.
My name is Jennifer Guslick, and I'm with the Board of Directors for WGBA, and I'm also with Focus on Energy. And I wanted to first off thank our speakers today, and also thank you everyone for coming here today. Great presentation. We are going to open it up to questions in just a moment. I did want to point out one small thing before we do that. As all of you are thinking about incorporating more sustainability and energy efficiency into your corporations or organizations, I did want to point out, please make sure that you do visit the We Energies website as well as the Focus on Energy website. There are many programs that are available, assistance, articles that you can share with your employees. Focus on Energy also has a residential program that you can take a look at, as well as a assistance program for income qualifying customers. We Energies also has similar functions, and if you take a look at those websites, you can get a little bit more information on those programs. I'd like to now ask our three speakers if you could please stand, and we'd like to start with some questions. Do we have any questions today? Yes, sir.
Walmart mentioned that sustainable products. Can you a little bit expand on that? They buy everything in China.
Paul, would you like to address that one?
Walmart was mentioned.
Oh, Walmart,
They
okay.
sell sustainable products. I think it's a leader now since the first. One of the companies was mentioned here. They buy everything in China.
Well,
Those factories are sustainable.
actually, Walmart has put in place. They're asking their entire supply chain to report to them. Okay? And so they're starting that process, and they've sort of been the model for how organizations green their supply chain. They have 15 questions they ask of all their suppliers. So then they're making purchasing decisions based on what they get back from those suppliers. your point is if they're buying something from China that they shouldn't be?
No, I'm saying, are we be buying almost majority of the things in China, so we're going back and checking those factories?
What's kind of interesting when you think about it, I don't want to take your time away from others, is that greening one's supply chain is no small task. I'll give you an example. Procter & Gamble is in the process of doing it. Okay? They've got 90,000 suppliers. Okay? Just asking 90,000 suppliers for information. Whether it's so, they're sort of, the first step for these companies is just to decide who am I going to ask and how much am I going to ask them. Another company I'm familiar with, they have 20,000 suppliers and they've circled 200 of them. And so the point is that moving out to your supply chain and starting to gather information and then start asking, sort of moving them to more sustainability is, the game is on. And most companies are in the process of starting to ask significant, they're asking their supply chain to report. So you've got all these companies, if you're wondering why companies are getting into sustainability, as their big customers are saying, tell me, I want to see your footprint. And that'll get your attention.
And it's also taking the next step too. Those suppliers are asking their suppliers to do the exact same thing. I've worked with a couple of companies that have brought that up as well. They are suppliers to suppliers of Walmart, and they've been asked to do similar things.
There's nothing like your number one customer asking you to do something, and their purchasing agents are going to use it to decide how much business they give you. There's more incentive for you.
Yes, sir. Front row.
Everything that you've been presenting, as long as I've been attending this stuff, we always keep talking about how it might be a $36,000 upcharge or $50,000 upcharge to go to better lighting or something. My question is during the design process, and there's a budget that's put together, is the number, when you talk about the upcharge, is that still within the base budget? Or does the owner still have to say, well, it's not going to be $1 million, we're going to have to allocate $1,036,000? Is this becoming more of the,
Do you want to take that one?
during the design part of the process, and we start designing towards that?
Sure, I'll take that one. Yeah, it's really during the design phase you can have the most influence as far as selecting more efficient equipment. And if you're talking about something like lighting, where as your baseline lighting system to meet minimum code of certain watts per square foot, but then to put in a more complex and advanced lighting system that maybe has more controls or more more efficient lighting, like a T5 or high performance T8, there is going to be that upcharge, and you have to look at that. So did that answer your question? I'm not sure I totally understand that.
I guess I'm trying to figure out, is it presented then to the owner that he will have an additional cost, or do you start taking into account the return on your investment in the front? How is it presented to the owner when you're putting the budgets together?
When we're working with them, we kind of look to them on how they want to see it. But usually we'll look at that incremental cost. So let's say that their base cost is $1 million, and then if they want to upgrade, it's $1,100,000. So no matter what, they're going to spend at least $1 million. But now it's really looking at it as just having that incremental cost of $100,000 to make that improvement, and not really looking at it as 1.1 million.
I think the key is assessment and opportunity. That's what happened at McDonald's. Someone needs to, or a team needs to look at the building and the organization and make an assessment of what are the opportunities, and they really need to know what they're talking about. In other words, it needs to be holistic, because some things impact others. So you need to do a really strong assessment, and then there's going to be an investment. Nothing's free. There's going to be an investment of something. What investments make sense? How do you pay for it? What's the payback over a period of time? So you need to assess the savings very accurately. Because if you're making an investment and those don't appear, something went wrong. So it's kind of that assessment phase is really critical, where the building and the organization are put under a microscope. The savings opportunities are the real opportunities, and the cost to implement those. And then you make a business decision, and and hopefully you proceed. And remember, we've all been looking for short payback items. We want to do that. We want that 1-year payback. Those are rare. Most things, in the energy efficiency world, it's typical. 5 to 10-year paybacks are very common. Renewables and alternative energy is 10 to 15, maybe longer. Whether it's, so you have to be realistic in sort of assessment as to what does it cost, and what does it save, and how to action. Hopefully that.
Okay. Sir, in the back?
Just a comment on the question. I think life cycle cost analysis is becoming, from the owner's point of view, they're looking at long-term rather than what am I buying today? What's my first cost versus what is this investment over time? And that's become a more prevalent thought process for owners versus just, I can't pay for this today.
Hopefully that's the case. Problem is, the way buildings are constructed is low bid. And the winner's the loser. In other words, and so we end up with buildings that need to be upgraded or optimized or improved because of the way we built them. It's, hopefully, we're making those decisions more long term. Things like LEED are wonderful examples of that because you really look at the building from a long-term perspective.
Right. Sir?
A lot of businesses lease their space. You've got a disconnect between the owner and the property
Right.
and the business. How are you working that out?
That's problematic because where's the incentive? I always laugh when I go to a city like New York and look at every building. Every building is using 50% more energy than it needs to, and the tenant is paying for it. Someone is making a living on that inefficiency. I mean, be the person who changes the light bulb. In other words, it's almost like how do you suck energy out of those buildings when the tenant is just is paying for the energy? It's challenging.
When I talk to customers about that, it's really about competition and making sure that they keep their property filled. And so when the option comes for a more energy efficient building that's across the street, they're going to be able to retain their customers, whether that's a multifamily property or a commercial property. So that's one of the ways that we've approached it, is that it's really about competition. And if they want to stay in business, they need to start making their buildings energy efficient so they can attract new customers and retain their customers.
So you're generally dealing more with the building owner rather than the tenant?
Generally, yeah. Of course, occasionally we'll get tenants, interested as well. But, yeah, surely.
Well, what I mentioned before too is supply chain bringing these major organizations who, let's say, go out and lease office space or lease space. They're demanding of their, that they have more efficient buildings because it's part of their entire footprint. So it's starting to change.
And when we are working with the tenants that are the tenants in the lease space, we try to work with them and see like what their goals are, or because first when they're talking to us, it's obvious that they have a plan and they want to do something to lower their energy consumption. So we sort of look at what their outlook is, and maybe that they only have a 5-year lease, so they really only expect to be there for another 5 years, but they want to do something that has a quick payback. So we only look for projects and try to prioritize ones that have under a 5-year payback so that they will get that return on investment during the period that they're there. And it's tricky to work with them because there is that disconnect in that incentive to lower your own costs. But that's the best way that I've found to work with them, is just focus on what their goals are and what their time horizon is.
Okay. Gentleman in the third row?
In the past few years, we discovered it's a lot easier to sell a renewable system to a customer, say in Colorado and states, or even countries like Germany that have such a high incentive program from the utility company, as far as assisting the owner in paying for the system itself to put it in place. I mean, when it comes time to calculate your payback with the owner, you sit down and say, in Colorado, we sit down with them and say,
It's hard to speculate on what the, it's hard to speculate on what the incentive levels are going to be. But I know that Focus does support renewable energy systems. I don't make the policy decisions for how much incentive are going to be in there.
Yes. Frank.
And directed, is it John or Jim? I can't see from here.
Depends what the question is.
John or Jim? I've seen stories about 70% of the electrical usage in the United States consumed by buildings. And I wonder if that's accurate. And I'm looking for your opinion or maybe your experience. It seems to me the biggest user of energy would be industrial applications. Flat out manufacturing, production of steel, huge amount of energy is going into that consumption, which would strike me to be far more than what would be available out of buildings. What type of things, my question, no, not the case, no.
It's significant.
Yeah.
Buildings are number one. Cars are number two.
So a hospital environment, which is a big energy user, data center is a big energy user, goes under the umbrella of a building.
Mhm.
What's happening in those environments to look at saving energy? Because we're talking about a lot of low-hanging fruit. We're talking lighting. Seems like a lot of that direction is into that low-hanging fruit classification. But in those big energy consuming areas, what else is being done besides commission? How else can you save energy if you're making steel?
Are you asking?
Yeah, just curious if you've seen anything.
On the industrial side or on the commercial side?
I'm just saying on the industrial side.
There's more efficient ways of sometimes melting the steel or manufacturing processes. In the plastics industry, the radiant heat bands that they use, insulating those with more efficient options. A lot of variable speed drive opportunities. Controlling how much those machines run. So setting in controls so that it's on when it needs to be on, but it's off when they're not running it, which I see a lot. We're going to manufacturing and the machine's running and there's no one around, there's no product coming off them, so putting in interconnects to that sort of thing.
So you have the ability to influence those areas and process as well.
Yep. Compressed air is a huge one that we look at. Heat recovery is another.
So is it Jim or John?
John.
Okay, thanks.
It depends upon how I answer the question.
Okay.
And then to answer your question to the healthcare and data centers, you mentioned those. Healthcare, we've really found the most cost-effective way to get into healthcare is with retro-commissioning or existing building commissioning effort. And just within the focus program of healthcare facilities, our median payback on those buildings is 0.46 years. So that's under 6-month payback. And that's really the approach that we've taken with the healthcare industry because that really just get things operating the way that they're supposed to be. Within data centers themselves, the main driver is that computing equipment and IT equipment in there. So we look at things like server virtualization, storage consolidation with solid state drives instead of the hard disk drives because they generate heat and they take energy to spin those disks. And then on the support side, you can put in more efficient HVAC systems. Data centers require cooling year-round, so let's put in a water side economizer, or let's put in an air side economizer so we don't have to run that chiller 24/7. Let's put in a chiller that is sized for part load operation and put a VFD on the compressor for that. Lots of things that you can do there. It's pretty much endless.
Great. Well, it looks like we are out of time, so I would like to thank you again for coming today. If you do have questions that you did want to ask today, I believe our speakers may be here for a few minutes after the presentation, so please stop on up. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Great to see you again. Hey there.